I know that maybe everyone thinks that we're here to listen to an hour of how the NSCDA is going to roll out the training for the D&I program, but we're not exactly ready to start doing that. So what we thought we'd do is I'm going to spend a few minutes and just talk about the journey, both organizationally and sort of personally with the NSCDA in terms of our diversity and inclusion efforts over the past couple of years. And then I'll get Connie to talk about how the training is going to be pushed out and what we're going to do, and then pass it over to Robert for a few minutes with him so he can talk about what he's been up to as well. So okay. I put this...
Why don't you let me do your intro?
Oh, I thought you passed it over to me. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to say hello to everybody and welcome them. Okay. And that we're happy you can join us today for our third session for the Nova Scotia Works Diversity and Inclusion Program webinar series. And so for those of you who were able to join us for our first webinar on July 27th, Michael Adia presented the developmental evaluation and research findings that have been recorded to date regarding the Nova Scotia Works Diversity and Inclusion Program and the engagement sessions with the current Nova Scotia Works CDPs who self-identify as African Nova Scotian and persons of African descent. The second webinar focused on diverse and inclusive hiring practices and was facilitated by two of our senior Nova Scotia Works executive directors, and they are also our Nova Scotia Works Diversity and Inclusion Program advisors, Linda Thomas and Rebecca Skeet from the YMCA. So today's webinar, as Kathy just said, will focus on the training components of the Nova Scotia Works Diversity and Inclusion Programs, participants and proponent organizations, and that will be facilitated by Kathy McGee, the executive director, and Connie Corse, the training manager from the NSCDA. And as Kathy said, we'll also hear a brief description from Robert Ffrench, executive director of VANSDA, regarding the diversity and inclusion training opportunities, which will be open to all Nova Scotia Works service providers. Both these organizations are partners in this program, and we are pleased to call on their expertise and knowledge in supporting this initiative. This session is scheduled for 1 hour. And will be available for you to review upon completion of the series for you all to reference or review for the folks who were unable to participate but are interested in receiving the learnings we're sharing with you all. So now, Kathy, without any further ado, I'll pass it over to the NSCDA to begin your session.
Okay, I just want to take over everything. Everybody be quiet. I just listen to me, nobody else. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I put up the first slide. It's kind of like the vision statement of the NSCDA, and I circled leader, not because we are a leader in diversity and inclusion, but because it's an aspirational goal of ours. So I just wanted to clear that, and that I'm not defining us as a leader in this, but that we certainly want to be there someday. So we're all in this together, working towards that. Now change the slide. How do I do that? I'm getting nothing. Am I still sharing it?
You're still sharing, so just click your arrow over on your keyboard. There you go.
I didn't press that, but okay, it works. Okay, you bear with me, everybody. So I thought I briefly talked for a few slides just about our journey towards where we are today. And I was involved in the transformation with Nova Scotia Works in 2016, and then started with the NSCDA in 2017. And so when D&I became one of the pillars of the work that we're doing, started to look at what I thought D&I meant, and realizing that I didn't even really know what it meant, and that the idea of sort of ticking boxes or moving beyond compliance was where we needed to go. And so digging into the difference between diversity and inclusion and getting to the real meat of what it meant was the beginning of the journey for us at the NSCDA. And the first thing that we did in March of 2018 was really ask for help. We were able to work with a consultant who was skilled both at finding partners and collaborators with whom we could work, because the answer to the D&I question about how we could move towards this was certainly not something that I had a lot of experience in, just a lot of desire to do. So one of the, I guess at the same time, we were looking at the career development profession in Nova Scotia and really realizing how skewed it was in terms of gender, race, and age. And looking at all the conversations we were having around the profession and supporting Nova Scotia Works and saying, wow, who's really not here at the table during these discussions? So it's really hard to have a discussion about diversity and inclusion when the same people who all look the same from the same background are sitting at the table talking about something that they really don't know a lot about. So it was a really big piece of understanding, I think, to come to a really simple concept of who's not here. So that was an important learning. And then understanding that being a good person isn't enough in this conversation, and that I consider myself to be relatively free of biases. I'm not. I would have considered myself not a racist, and yet through these conversations, questions come up where I have to question my belief system. And so all looking at this and having all the conversations at work around it have been everyone has had to do a real deep dive into a personal discussion of what they believe and how they feel and the kind of work that you're willing to do in order to make this work. So that was sort of our 2008 work. In February 2019, the NSCDA board passed a motion to make inclusion an embedded element of all our governance programs, systems, and services. So where this whole business starts, I think, for organizations is at the top. So without leadership buy-in, none of this is going to happen, or it's going to start and stall. So we started off with board buy-in, we have senior leadership buy-in, and then of course, staff buy-in as well. And I was just thinking, Connie, this morning about all those Friday nights. Remember in the old office, the four of us would sit in that training room. We'd be there till 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, just sitting there, just hashing over some of these ideas around this and how it's going to work. So having some really good, deep conversations about D&I with everyone from board and senior leadership right down to staff is really important. And it is a shared responsibility for everyone in the organization to take a part in it. I put this in because I think this is an important piece that, and I think it's the educational piece for us. So it became clear to me that what we didn't know, what a big piece of what we didn't know at the NSCDA was historical information. We didn't know about the history of ANS and PAD people in Nova Scotia and how that impacts where we are today. So there's been a number of aha moments for myself and for our staff where we've discovered, just going to the Shelburne Black Loyalist Center or the Black Cultural Center, or learning some of that really interesting aspects, or AfricPhil, learning about the history of African Nova Scotia over the last 400 years really placed us in a better place to understand, I don't know what I'm doing here with this, sorry, to understand what we needed to know to move forward, and really to understand the current experiences of institutionalized and systemic racism and its effect on African Nova Scotian communities. So when we talk about distrust and failed opportunities, really having a lot of uncomfortable conversations about what community took part in that and what that looked like, and having a good understanding of it. So the educational piece around history is so important with this. So I really encourage everybody to do some stuff with staff and get out when you can and learn. I know that there was a walking tour of Halifax last year around highlights of African Nova Scotian history in Halifax. There's AfricPhil, there's the Loyalist Center in Shelburne, which is just amazing, the Cultural Center, and of course, community events as well. And this is the last one I'm going to close out with this has really affected the values of our organization. So we looked at these three sort of as leading values in the NSCDA. So one is diversity and inclusion, and the B is belonging. So looking at it's you know, you can create a diverse workforce, you can include as much as you want, but if people don't have a sense of belonging to your organization, if they don't feel like they can show up every day and be their true authentic selves, that they won't stay with the organization and won't help you build something better. We also have committed to be a learning organization. So certainly through this whole D&I process and with our partners in this program is allowing ourselves to make mistakes and not being afraid to put questions out there or opinions out there, but really be committed to being a learning organization and to not be afraid to have to maybe go 2 steps backwards to go 3 steps forward, you know? So to be flexible around that. And then finally, say it, do it. I say that with respect to all the work we do at the NSCDA, but I really like the fact that, you know, we encourage staff to say, hey, why don't we go and do a tour of Africville this week? And we go, sure, let's do it. I mean, nothing is off the table in terms of programming that we might want to do or expeditions we might want to go on, or if anybody's got a great idea on how we can improve our relationships with community or how we look at D&I, then we're really flexible and say, let's see, well, let's do as much as we can, because we know that this is a lifetime of work for us. This is not a, well, we're good on this now. You know, you can't tick the box on D&I. It is just, it's going to be a constant in our lives. We have to commit to it. We have to be intentional about it. And it's something that's going to be part of our business forever. So with that, I think, Connie, I will turn that over to you for a minute.
Okay. Kathy asked me just to speak a little bit about how we at the NSCDA changed or looked at our hiring and how our hiring practices in the past, how we had to be intentional in our hiring. And so we really wanted to be intentional in looking at hiring generational African Nova Scotians due to the historical discrimination in this province. And we also wanted to be intentional in how we attracted new people to the organization. And it really meant looking at reaching into community. And it was, for me, it was one of those really big learning experiences, because I had no idea what that meant. And I thought, you know, as a, you know, I will say, an intelligent, I was a career practitioner for a number of years, and I thought I understood the whole hiring process, but I didn't know what it meant to reach out to community. So I reached into community, and I remember having that conversation. I believe I had it with Robert and said, I have no idea what I'm doing here. And that's okay. It's okay that I didn't know, and I didn't know how to reach out into community. And it was reaching into community that allowed us to attract and bring on Junior. And so that was kind of the start of that intentional hiring. We also brought on P4G, so Placemaking 4G, which is a Black-owned business out of Halifax that really helped us look at how we are doing our hiring practices and what we're doing. And they actually started with us doing a cultural assessment, and they came in, and it was really interesting to meet with all the staff to say, what is the culture of the NSCDA? So it wasn't about what are your training requirements, or what are your educational requirements, or it was all around what is the culture. And we changed a lot with regards to the thought of fit versus contributor. And I still struggle with this sometimes, because I'll say, oh, that person's a great fit. But when you think of fit versus contributor, for us, it's if we were looking for someone that fit before we started this journey, the fit would have been another middle-aged white woman, to be honest, because that's who was the NSCDA. Other than Phil, who is our only male staff, was all middle-aged white women. And so if we were looking for fit, someone to fit into our team, then we're looking for that same kind of individual. And so it's not about fit, it's about contribution and a contributor. So what does an individual contribute to your team that is a different perspective and new and exciting, and what do they bring that doesn't mean that when you're thinking of fit, you're asking that person to come in and change who they are to fit into your existing place. A contributor comes in and it's the existing place that changes to meet or to bring on or to learn from the contributor. So that was a really, really big, I think, learning for us. And sometimes we still say, oh, there, you know, this is a great fit, but you know, so you have to teach yourself to learn those things. And I think from a career perspective or a career practitioner's perspective, if I was to ever go back as a case manager again, this would completely change how I work with individuals, because I know how many times I've said to clients, oh, you know, are you a good fit for this organization? And so it certainly does change the way you think about hiring practices and bringing on individuals. So those were some of those learning things for us. And I think, Kathy, if you go to the next slide, you're going backwards, go forward.
I'm trying.
There we go.
Okay.
This is just an example of our job postings. So the first one, the old NSCDA job posting, which what we did, you know, we put it on Career Beacon. It's, you know, a regular job posting. And I'm just going to read the highlighted purple box. It says, the Nova Scotia Career Development Association is committed to creating a diverse and inclusive workplace and in attracting talent that will help us promote inclusion across all our programs and services. We seek out talent to reflect and better serve our whole community, to strengthen our cultural knowledge and to help our team through changes and challenges. We encourage individuals within diverse communities and from underrepresented groups to apply. And that sounds really great. And that's the common, I'm going to say it's a common diversity and inclusion statement you see in job postings. But in my opinion, it really didn't mean anything and it didn't attract people. And so with this job posting, we got a lot of applicants who fit, but we didn't get a lot of applicants who could contribute in a new way to us. And so working with P4G has, instead of using the basic job posting, we now do what is an opportunity brief. And it still explains the position, it still talks about some of the qualifications, but it more focuses on who we are as an organization and what our culture of our organization is, and to attract people to say, you really would, you know, we would love you to come and contribute to our team. So it's just a different way of looking at how we changed what we were doing to diversify our team. And I will say it has been an amazing learning opportunity for us. And I think the team that we have now is absolutely incredible and phenomenal. I can't speak highly enough about the team and the individuals that we work with, and the growth and the learning within the organization and the personal growth for myself, and like what Kathy said around do we have biases, and looking at and examining who we are and what our beliefs are. Personally, I've done a lot of that, and it has been very eye-opening and challenging and amazing and rewarding. And so I just think our journey has begun at the NSCDA, and I think it's exciting that Nova Scotia Works are a lot of for Nova Scotia Works are starting this journey too. And I think it's, but it was really, really exciting for us, and we are continue to learn, and we're having a lot of fun. So that's all I guess that's all I'm going to say. I am going to say though, before, I know Junior wants to just, Junior's going to jump in and say something, but I did want to just maybe once Junior's done, I'll quickly just talk a little bit about the training after Junior's done before we move on to Robert. So, okay, Kathy, you can change the slide.
Okay.
How you guys doing? So
You
first,
would.
okay, so my voice is a little raspy, don't mind me. So yeah, so like Kathy and Connie said, like the NSCDA is really on this journey to try to become leaders in like diversity and inclusion. And one thing that I've noticed over my year there is the willingness and the welcoming of new ideas and the openness of admitting that we are not there yet, and to get there we need to inform ourselves. And so one of the decisions that I took upon myself and some of the other staff is to possibly create will increase our knowledge of cultural literacy. And one of those ideas was creating a book club. And through that book club, we decided to do that after the responses of traumatic events that happened with the Black Lives Matters, the protest. I'm sure many of you heard of what happened to Kayla in our office and her encounter with a police officer in Dartmouth. And so it was really important for us to talk about systematic racism, white privilege, racial biases, social justice, talk about our white fragility. And doing that, I said it was trying to make the comfortable uncomfortable conversation. And now it's like, doesn't matter how much you talk about it, there's still an aspect of it that is uncomfortable, but the fact that we welcome it and it's actually highly praised in the office, that it's really a comfortable decision. Nobody in the office ever fears anymore to come say something about how they feel, which is really important, because when somebody gets the feedback right on the spot of if they said something wrong or something's bothered or how we should go ahead and move with social justice, it doesn't hurt anybody. It really just helps everybody and make everybody comfortable and learn more. So it's a really good thing that we've been able to apply this at the NSCDA. And lastly, like, would I be interested to share? Bernice, I'm gonna answer that in a second. Increase cultural consciousness, and I think that's cultural consciousness is very important when you do diversity hiring or anything like that, or just community engagement. Like in the book White Fragility that we all learned, race is something that we can't avoid. And so cultural consciousness is being like, okay, if I am going to be able to hire somebody from this ethnicity or this race, what is it that they will need from me and what will I need to provide for them? It's not saying these person are gonna fit into this mold that I'm creating for them. It's like we said, the D, I, and the B, it's making that person feel like they belong in your space and work environment. So yeah, I can slightly talk about the Kayla story. So about 2 weeks ago, Kayla was leaving, I believe, a friend's place and was heading home from Dartmouth, and she got pulled up. There's a police officer that there's a news article about them, and there's, I believe, an interview as well. A police officer pulled next to her and did not have the lights on, and eventually about 6 cops surrounded her and started yelling at her with their pistols and telling her to get out her car, and was very forceful. And they were looking for a subject that had like, maybe I think it was a stolen vehicle or something like that. It could have been a motorcycle. It was not even a vehicle. And so when she went to the police station the next day, they wouldn't give her the case number or anything. They wouldn't share the information with her. And it was very traumatic for her, because in that moment she felt very vulnerable. Her life was at risk, and she felt like any brisk movement or any sign of fighting back could have led to her death. So it was really important for her to feel the support of the NSCDA, knowing that we do not stand with social injustice and discrimination or any type of racism. So that is her story in a short.
I think I'd like to add something to that, is that, you know, when I heard about Kayla's situation, it was, you know, you immediately go to, oh my goodness, you know, that's terrible. But then when I got to thinking about it and having these conversations internally, that out of all the sort of ANSPAD people who work from us, 3 have been detained, arrested, handcuffed, and unarrested. 3 out of 6. And I think it's like 60%. It's like a bizarre number. Like when you start to actually really live with those kinds of numbers with people, you start to have a whole deeper understanding of the situation. So again, it's about understanding comes with, you know, the understanding of the world increases so much when you increase the diversity of your workplace. You really feel things from the heart, and you see things that actually happen instead of just reading it on the news and going, oh, that doesn't sound right. You know, it becomes really personal to you. So it's just another benefit, I guess, of having more people that you work with who have a different perspective on life. You can really sort of feel what they're going through at the time. So that's my addition to that. So thank you, Junior.
Yeah, that's it for
Junior.
me.
Before we kind of pass this over to Robert, I did just want to say about the training. And so, and I'm assuming, and Angela, I'm assuming there's going to be another webinar before all of your new hires start around the training. We're certainly going to, you know, open to doing that. One that is specifically directed towards the training and what it's going to be. But it is going to be an extensive, it's a multi-year training outline where we're partnering with CEI, VANSDA, and the community of learning, and that's very important for us. And we're bringing on mentors. We're reaching out to the community of learning to bring on mentors to help us in the rollout and the development, and to look at the training and to support individuals through this, both on a training, but on a certification side as well, through the multi-year that they're going to be working until they become certified. And so we will be put together a whole complete, Kathy and I said this morning, it may be a book, but we'll put together a complete outline of everything that's going to happen, and be able to come back with a really detailed look at all of the training. One of the key pieces, though, is we are looking at individualized training per individual. So some of the training when working with the mentors and individuals will be different depending on each individual. So some individuals may need training in one thing that someone else may not. And so there will be a kind of, I don't want to say there's an overseeing part of training. There's going to be, you know, training for everybody. And then there is going to be some individualized stuff based on the needs of participants in the new hires. And so we're really excited to have mentors from the community of learning come on and support us in looking at developing those kind of individualized training plans and moving forward. So we will certainly reach back out to everybody prior to new staff starting with a full training outline, but I just wanted to pop in with that. And now I'll pass it over to Robert. So I think Kathy can probably stop sharing her screen.
Thank you, Kathy and Connie and Junior. It was very enlightening to hear your presentation. Just to give everybody a bit of a background, Kathy first came to me in 2018 about this wild idea that she had about changing NSCDA into a much more diverse organization. I remember sitting here with her and asking, are you sure you really want to go down that path? And her answer was, what she typically gives is that she had this light bulb moment sitting in a room of persons who looked like her and thought like her, talking about something that they never knew anything about. So it has done my heart great pleasure in seeing the growth of NSCDA to this point, because they accepted the challenge through various conversations with both Kathy and Connie. I told them about the pitfalls. I told them about the bumps that were going to come, And these two women steadfastly held their ground and pushed past them. So on that end, I absolutely congratulate the work that NSCDA has done to this point. On another sort of secondary level, before I actually start, I want to, I guess, congratulate Junior on his 1-year anniversary with NSCDA. Junior came into my office 1 year ago, minus another couple of months, looking to head to Europe and working overseas. And I said, hang on a second, I might have just a thing for you. Called up Connie, and I said, hey, are you still looking? And to hear Junior's overall enthusiasm and his joy in talking about NSCDA again does my heart well, because he is an example of the young people that we do have within this community. So on saying that, let me open up my section of this conversation today. Okay, the Career Practitioner Trainee program is what we're all here to talk about. Obviously, it's being, this part of the presentation is VANSDA's. And this is going to be a quick overview on the organizational change component. It must be said that while NSCDA is going to be dealing with the individual staffing, we're looking at the issue of assisting the organizations. Just to give a brief overview, this is going to be on 4 different sections that we'll be looking at with the organization. The first being inequity. And the first on that area is what we need to unlearn. And the intent is that we will raise more questions than the answers that will be provided. Our process will be based on individual change leading to organizational change. We are in a moment where inequity has been amplified to a level no one on this call has seen previously, but does that matter? The arguments have been made for years. The level of questioning and searching for information on anti-Black racism has never been higher, but does that matter? If you have ANS employees currently, have you had conversation about this moment with them and your role as an employer? Have they been honest with you in their answers, and in particular about your organization? And as leaders, you already know the issues, so asking staff to help identify them is an age-old method of getting answers to validate your own preconceived beliefs. Basically retaining the status quo. So the conversations that we're about to embark upon with the leadership groups from the various organizations, I will say is not going to be easy conversation. There will be uncomfortable times. I know there's just no way getting around it. Our re-education process will be based upon 4 universal stages of development. Awareness is number 1, which is the recognition that something is off, but examined to a much deeper level, personally and organizationally. Analysis, action, and accountability or allyship. At this point in time, I would say very easily that VANSDA views NSCDA as a tremendous ally. the likelihood is that prior efforts that you have made have seen the jump from stage 1 to stage 3 without the necessary analysis or knowledge regarding your depth of awareness, and then question why efforts have not worked or failed. The stage 2 analysis is necessary to listen, learn, identify the right processes in place, if any, and where power is located and who or what is influencing that power. The final aspect is the accountability stage, and this is quite simply determined by who is holding you accountable and what is the allyship that you profess. And I'm just going to ask a quick question. Obviously, there's no answers, but how many of you put out BLM support statements after May 25th, 2020? If you did, why? And if you didn't, why not? Organizational change is obviously the intent of all this work, and I will say that again, similar to NSCDA, this is going to be a multi-year process. We are looking at, and I will tell everybody right from now, somewhere in the range of 100 hours of time spent. Our process will also begin with some basic tenets of organizational change. The first being, define the issue. So what is the issue that we're talking about? It's racism. The word racism is used everywhere and is often used to explain all of the inadequate systems Black and brown people access from healthcare, education, housing and food insecurity, employment, or policing. And not just in the formal sense, but also for all the Karens that are out in the communities. But racism fully fails to capture the impact on what Black and brown people in this country are facing. You've already heard something that is of recent history within our own network. For our process, we're going to get comfortable calling what this is: anti-Black racism. And with that, we'll be also examining terms. We'll fully examine the terms: diversity. Quick note, all the ways people differ. Inclusion, where everybody is welcomed and valued. We always pat ourselves on the back. Freudian slip for that. But we're going to be dealing with equity, where everyone has what is needed to thrive, meaning fair and just treatment. And in particular, racial equity. D&I training is not racial or equity training. Our work will be based upon the challenge to embed the conditions where race does not predict nor determine the distribution of resources, opportunities, and burdens on groups and individuals. And we will hope to lead that to a organizational change built on the recognition that race-based inclusion is a strategic priority, not a moral nicety. Is your organization capable of achieving anti-racist status? We will be finding out, and you'll be finding out as we take this very interesting journey. Because being anti-racist means that you are actively doing the work to combat racism. Anti-racism is the active process of identifying and eliminating racism by changing systems, organizational structures, policies, practices, and attitudes so that power is redistributed and shared equitably. That's all I have to say, and I'm hoping that has given everybody a bit of a heads up on where we're heading.
Thanks, Robert. Lots of information to take in there. I see we only have just a little more than 15 minutes left. So we're just going to leave this open for any questions or concerns. Anybody want to offer up, their thoughts or reflect on the stories that were shared today? We're really open to have some conversation at this time. Anybody? Well, I'm going to bring in Jamie, if Jamie's able to unmute herself there. And maybe we can just, Jamie, if you have anything that you would like to reflect on where we are with this process today after we've done, this is our third webinar now.
Hi, Angela. Thank you very much. And just wanted to offer my appreciation to all the folks who are sharing today a little bit about the work that's coming, their own experiences with the NSCDA, and also to Robert and the work that's going to be coming around various training components over the next few years. And so we remain really excited to move forward with the project and to continue the work that we will be doing together. And I do believe that I think it was just one moment here. Liz, you popped up on the screen just before Angela sent this over to me. Did you have a question or a comment that you would like to offer?
No, I've certainly found this very, very informative this morning. And then in hearing Robert speak last, and of course, the whole anti-racism and things related to Black Lives Matter, and that is all on many of our minds very often. So it was a little stressful listening to that at that moment. But I did want to thank Robert for that presentation, because I think it's a very important, the information that he shared with us today. And we do have to keep it in the forefront, and we have to be aware and be conscious. And whenever we have an opportunity to improve, we need to take it. So thank you, Robert. And I don't know if I should thank you, Jamie, for picking me out, but I did want to make that comment, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to offer a little bit more space for people before we start wrapping up. And how are folks feeling? I know in terms of, I know people might be a little bit frustrated with how slow some things are happening. I can give you an update on where we are right now. We're just in final negotiations with the province around the master agreement between the CEI and the province, with the final budgets all being wrapped up just in the last 2 weeks. So we're hoping to get those out to you very soon. And we remain committed to get that going. And I know that there are a number of folks as well who are looking at the hiring. And I was sorry that I wasn't able to be here for what I hear was a really great webinar last week around the diversity inclusion in relation to the hiring practices. And thank you to Rebecca and Linda for facilitating that conversation. I also understand that there were a number of other folks who were involved in that. So if people are getting ready, I think that's a very good thing to start reaching out into community and to be preparing for those positions to be coming on board. Everything looks really good to move ahead with the agreements. It's just a little bit slower getting that final master agreement done so that we can send those agreements to you. And I believe we're just waiting on one organization I saw this morning from Angela just to give the final okay on their budget. But we are very close to being ready to go. And I wanted to thank Robert as well for bringing some insight in terms of the training components that are going to be coming up over the next little while. And of course, not everything's going to happen all at once. There will be hiring taking place. As we've learned before, there will be a community of practice facilitated for the cohort through the NSCDA as well, and a community of learning for all of you and leaders within the Nova Scotia Work system, and not just the organizations that have been successful in getting those agreements and having people positioned within their organizations through the project, but for all of the different agreement holders through Nova Scotia Work. So we're really looking forward to that as well. So maybe and back over to you, Angela, but I'm really interested to see what kinds of questions are coming up for folks as we get ready for a launch, hopefully here in September.
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, so really it's just over to you all for any questions or concerns or any thoughts you have with this. Hi, Amanda.
Hey, so I missed the last session. I was on vacation, and there may have been something of this in the presentation, but I really liked what Connie, I think, mentioned, fit versus contributor, and I'd like to see, is there something more going to be explored about that? Because even it's one thing for me to be here, but there's other people that are involved in our hiring process, and I'd love to see something more happen there to help us think in those ways, because we all do, think, okay, well, are you thinking of the person you're interviewing, or will they fit with the people I already have? And if the people I already have all look the same, well, there you go. So is there more of that coming, or an opportunity to watch the recording of last week, which might have addressed that because it was talking about hiring practices? So
Absolutely. I think what I'm going to do, along with Jody, who's with us today for some support, is maybe, and Margot has requested it too. Hi, Margot, I just seen your message. Yes, we are prepared to share every series. So maybe what we'll do to help folks move along with that recruitment process is make sure that you have access to those webinars that were missed before. So we'll send out the links to the diversity and inclusion, the hiring piece that Linda and Rebecca did, as well as what the NSCDA provided along with VANSDA today.
So that would be great before we get into that.
Before you get into it, yeah, definitely. And there's support here with us as well, from the CEI and from the Nova Scotia Work System, together along with our folks that we had the engagement sessions with. We're trying to make sure that we have support put into place for you folks who are looking for that assistance when it comes to recruitment and calling out to community, or just being a part of the panel if you're lacking in that fit versus contributor, so to speak, like Connie just shared with us. If we're kind of start that vision and that process, that way of thinking, then we can definitely implement ourselves somewhere with the folks who need that support. Anyone else?
Yeah. Sorry, my throat's a little
Hi,
sore
Rhonda.
today. Hi. I just wanted to make a comment that I'm very thankful for these sessions, because I feel like I'm a little better informed. I still have a long way to go. And I've been very ignorant to probably of a lot of the things. I did grow up in Calgary, and I felt it was quite diverse there in my high school and that. But just listening to all these sessions, I feel better prepared when I go in the community and I hear people saying certain things, like they'll say, well, I heard Black Lives Matter. Yeah, well, what about everybody else? They matter too. And I feel like I can have those conversations now and feel better prepared. So this is definitely helping me. So I really appreciate it.
We appreciate you being a part of it, Rhonda. Thank you.
Thanks.
We have a few more moments if anybody else would like to have any comments. No? Well, we invite you to send any emails if you think of something, or you just want more of a private discussion. We're completely open to that as well. You can always reach myself via email or cell phone. You just reach out to me and I will get back to you as soon as possible so we can, you know, just form this relationship that's really going to make this program a success. So I'm really excited to be a part of it. As I've stressed through our other sessions together, that this is really going to be a tremendous effort that we're all going to take part in, and we're just all going to put our best foot forward and not be afraid of those uncomfortable situations. We're going to make uncomfortable comfortable, as Junior said. So it's going to be a wonderful journey with you all. I have no doubt.
Me too.
Yes.
Super. Gonna
Yes.
be great.
And I thank you to all the partners who are participating in this, because really this collaboration is going to make the program that extra special success